Spoilers, eh? Oh, they're just horrible, aren't they? Oh. Unless you really like them, in which case ignore all that. But this is a video for people who don't like them and want to avoid them at all costs. First off, we need to be able to classify spoilers, essentially grade them, sort of like military grade plutonium, based on how avoidable they are. Minor spoilers are minute details, essentially mini synopses, a rough idea of what's in the episode, the tone of it, etc. Their avoidability is essentially dependent on how famous cast member X who's making a cameo is, or the hype surrounding it. For the sake of argument, I'll just say ish. Major spoilers are more important details and can include a full synopsis, a roadmap of all the surprises in the episode, etc. I've split them up into two categories. General major spoilers are big revelations that the creators know are too sizable to hide. A few examples of this would include an episode of Doctor Who where the Daleks are coming back, or that the Doctor's going to regenerate. You get the idea. Often these are revealed in advance as a marketing ploy to build hype. Leaks and revelations are essentially everything else, all the intricate specific details that they manage to keep a lid on. Generally speaking, once an episode has aired, important revelations will become part of the wider cultural consciousness, or as we're happy to mislabel it, the zeitgeist. These sorts of things would include Vader is Luke's father, or Snape kills Voldemort, things of that scale. Generally speaking, if you're trying to avoid a spoiler once an episode has aired, you should be okay for the first day or so, but after that grace period you can expect to find people talking about it everywhere, so you need to be careful. To give you an example of all these types of spoiler, here's a layout of an episode that contains all three classes. The episode's called Midnight 2, Midnight Harder, and it stars Bees Capaldi, Stephen Fry and Rula Lenska. The Doctor returns to Midnight in his final adventure where he regenerates into Miranda Hart by eating radioactive chutney. And here we can class each part of this into three classes of spoiler. As far as spoiler awareness is concerned, you're safer with just getting news straight from the BBC. Obviously they won't reveal too many details beyond stuff to fuel the marketing of the show. Most of the time these will just be minor spoilers anyway. And then you can move on to social media. Generally speaking, unless the people you're surrounded with are super hardcore mega geeks, social media is usually spoiler free. I mean, no one wants to be friends with someone who spoils things, am I right? The press are usually well behaved, mostly because they know Stephen Moffat will come around and throw bricks through their windows or something if they ruin things for everyone. Quite possibly the worst instance of this was the press leaking details of the Ninth Doctor's regeneration. Moving into the dark corners of the internet, you can expect to see people getting hold of scripts, leaked footage and other material and discussing it ad nauseum. Of course, the worst place you can get spoilers from is usually the BBC itself, usually by accident. You know, like by inadvertently sending out episodes before they've aired, or leaving content on a server completely open to the internet. Careful now, BBC. As a case study, we'll look at my attempt to evade a general major spoiler. Now, this time last year, the BBC asked, "Who is the new Doctor?" My answer, of course, was, "I don't want to know!" Okay, so it's currently about 7:45 on Sunday the 4th of August. Pretty much everyone I know knows who the new Doctor is, and I don't. And I'd like to keep it that way. So I spent approximately 24 hours desperately avoiding a story that had gripped the entire country. Obviously I found out eventually, much to my frustration. But managing to avoid something that was everywhere is possible. If you look at what worked, I strongly recommend turning off all social media for at least 12 hours after the story is broken. Let people disseminate the news, have a bit of a chat about it, and once that's over you can either risk going back or getting a backup account. You know, follow a few people on Twitter who'll never talk about anything to do with whatever the news is about. You could do well with getting a spoiler monitor plugin for your browser too. There's loads of them about, just go and Google them. Take a day off. Going through your daily routine, you put yourself at risk of contact with all sorts of people talking specifically about it and you inadvertently overhearing it, or like a radio broadcasting it as news, or you could see a front cover of a newspaper by accident. There's all sorts of ways you'll be putting yourself at risk. Like I say, the next day people will be talking about something else and you'll be a lot safer. Misinformation is a great idea. If you ask people around you to feed you with lies, misinformation and speculation, there's a high probability that your brain will spend too much time trying to process these that if you're told the truth, it'll just be another thing for your brain to add to the heap of possibilities it's dealing with. Having said that, trying to run away from the spoiler monster is something you'll be doing for a long time, especially if it's a big one, and especially if it's become part of the cultural consciousness. Always got a cape look. Alternatively, you could live under a rock, though that's not recommended. If you've already been spoiled, sorry, I guess. Your options are Darren Brown or a lobotomy, maybe. Preferably Darren Brown, though.
Okay, cameras rolling. 3, 2, 1, and action.
I will exterminate you. Halt. Stop.